that that disease does to camels or to sheep, and it just eliminates the entire flock or the herd that you have. And subhanAllah, in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, there was a serious, if you like, drought, and a lot of people died. And there are other commentators mention other things that happened in the past, and Allah knows if they are happened or they might happen in the future. But there's going to be two major plagues in the world. And Allah knows, did that already happen or is it going to happen? Allah knows best. What number are we on? Number 3 now, right? No, number 4 now. Number 4, takthirul mal. You will be given lots of money. You will be given lots of money. So much so that a person will be given 100 dinars and he's going to be vexed and irritated. Why is it only 100? Now 100 dinars for them is quite literally, I would say realistically, something like $10,000 for us. Like a good amount of money. It's not a fortune, it's not 100 dinars is a good amount of money for them especially. So the Prophet said, a time will come when somebody is given 100 dinars and he will be irritated. You're only giving me 100 dinars. And 100 dinars was more than the annual income for most of the Sahaba. More than the annual income. And the Prophet predicted it's only a matter of time. You guys will be so rich, you won't even know what to do with your money. And I definitely believe we're living at that time now, compared to the early times of the Ummah. And then he said, a fitna, a trial, that no house of the Arabs will be left unaffected by. And when he's saying Arab here, he means Muslims, because at the time, that was what the Muslims were. No house of the Muslims will be left unaffected by. So there's going to be a major calamity that will affect the entire Ummah. What is that calamity? There are people in our times that are saying this is just happening now. Allah knows best. We don't, I have said this many times, we do not apply a specific prediction to a specific event because Allah knows best. But we may guess, we may hypothesize, but it is not our right to say the Prophet ﷺ said X, Y is happening, X and Y are exactly the same. We can say it appears something like this. And I have heard a number of scholars of our times, they say the current crisis of the Ummah is really affecting almost every single household of the bombs and the warfare and the civil war and crisis. Allah knows best if this is referred to or not. This is the 5th one. And then the 6th one, which is one of the most scariest ones, is that our Prophet ﷺ said that you will have a truce, you will have a pact or a treaty between yourselves and the Bani al-Asfar. And who are the Bani al-Asfar? In the time it was the Romans, and now it's their descendants, right? You will have a pact or a truce between them. Now other ahadith tell us other details, not in this one, that there will be another enemy that is common to the both of you. So you will have to combine to fight that common enemy. Then the hadith goes on, and then the Bani al-Asfar will be treacherous and break the treaty. They will deceive you after you've won the enemy. Then they will deceive you, and then they will come and fight you under 80 flags, 80 banners. They're going to come to fight you. Under each flag or banner there will be 12,000 men. In other words, an army the likes of which the world has not seen. This is going to be at the very end of time. This is what even the Christians predict, the Armageddon. We have a similar equivalent in our tradition as well. There are predictions of a worldwide global war. These are predicted in the hadith, is predicted in the Bible. And these are things that we try to avoid. We're not looking forward to them. We try our best to avoid them, even though we believe that eventually whatever the Prophet said will come to pass. So this too occurred. This hadith was given in one of the nights of Tabuk. Another incident that occurred in these 20 nights, and again we have no clue of knowing when each of these occurred. You can imagine in 20 days lots of things are happening. We're just giving you snippets here and there. Another thing that happened was a great honor for Abdurrahman ibn Auf, and that is that the Prophet prayed behind him, and he is one of the only 2 Sahaba whom the Prophet prayed behind in his lifetime. What happened was, Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah narrates that the Prophet woke up to use the restroom. This is before Fajr. So he went out, and whenever he would use the restroom, he would go away from the army, go away from the people. And I went with him, and I took the water and the spear. And the spear was sometimes used to provide shelter, like you put your cloak on it, there'll be something. So I took the water and the spear. And so when he came back, I poured the water for him and he washed his face and his hands. Then he tried to wash his sleeves, but the sleeves didn't come to the elbow. So he's wearing what they call the jubba, and the jubba of those days was like maybe like a cloak or something that has big heavy arms. It's cold, it's freezing cold, it's the winter. He couldn't get it up. So he put his hands inside and lifted the jubba up and put them from underneath. Right? So imagine a tight thobe that is loose at the bottom, because this is a cloak that's protecting you from the cold. So that you couldn't get it up. So what did he do? He put his hands inside. And then he went underneath, lifted the jubba up, then he could have access, right? And this shows us therefore that we are not allowed to be lazy in doing wudu. Each and every limb, each and every point has to be touched by the water, even if it's cold, and even if you're wearing tight clothing. You need to do that. So he washed himself, and as for his the masah, Mughira said, he only put his fingers inside the turban and then wiped over the rest of the turban. So masah is allowed for the turban, and for the sisters we can make qiyas, it is allowed for their hijab, as I've said this in the women's class that I give, that women are allowed to do masah over their hijab. They just put a little bit, just symbolically again, just like we do over the feet, that they just do like this, and then they do the rest over the hijab. And if a man is wearing a turban, not a kufi or topi, because you can take that off, but the turban that you wear, that some people still wear, and the sisters have the hijab, they may do masah. So he did masah over the turban. Then Mughira said, I bent down to take his shoes off, and he said, دعهما, leave my shoes on, فإني أدخلتهما طاهرتين, that I wore them while I was upon tahara. Then he did masah over his khuf, the leather shoes that he was wearing. So this is the famous hadith, Bukhari and Muslim. Then they walk back to Tabuk, and lo and behold, the Sahaba have begun Salat al-Fajr. Because he took some time, they have begun Salat al-Fajr. And so the Prophet ﷺ stood at the end of the line, and it was dark, but people began to recognize him, and the commotion spread that the Prophet ﷺ is here. Abdurrahman ibn Auf understood that the Prophet ﷺ is there. He took a step back, but the Prophet ﷺ motioned to him, remain there, stay where you are. And so he completed the salah behind Abdurrahman ibn Auf. He missed a rak'ah, and so him and Al-Mughira, they stood up to finish the rak'ah. And this is the only time that the Prophet ﷺ prayed behind a sahabi an entire rak'ah. As for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala an, now this happened incidentally, by the way, meaning it wasn't intended, meaning they were waiting for the Prophet and he didn't come. And this shows us the salah, the Sahaba knew it is so important that you don't even delay it for the Prophet ﷺ. And that really underscores for us the status of salah. Imagine us, we are lazy, we keep on delaying it, we seek Allah's refuge. Imagine even the Prophet, and they know he's going to come, but he's taking his time, and the salah time is Fajr is finishing. So they decide to pray, even though the Prophet was there, meaning physically in the vicinity, but they didn't know how long he's going to take, so they began the salah. This also shows us the blessings of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. In the end of the day, he is one of the 10 promised paradise. And he is one of the earliest converts. And his maqam, his status is similar to that of Umar and Uthman and Ali. And so Abdurrahman ibn Auf was considered to be of that elite circle. And he was nominated to be the imam. And so he was the only person whom the Prophet prayed a rak'ah behind. As for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, as we're going to come to maybe even later on this year or beginning of next year, when the Prophet fell sick, he ordered Abu Bakr to lead. And for around 1 week, Abu Bakr was leading the salah. One day, the Prophet walked out when Abu Bakr was leading the salah. And he sat next to Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr, when he saw that the Prophet was there, so he took a step back, رَجَعَ الْقَهْقَرَ, took a step back, and the Prophet motioned to him, makanik, stay where you are. And Abu Bakr, during the salah, said Alhamdulillah, like this, and then he still disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ and took a step back. And the Prophet ﷺ then was forced to, basically, he was praying next to him, he was forced to come up. Then he said after the salah, مَا مَنَعَكَ, why did you not obey me? Why did you disobey me? Right? So he said, ما كان ينبغي لابن أبي قحافة, it is not allowed for the son of Abu Quhafa to lead the Prophet in salah. So the disobedience was out of love and respect. Amazing. It's really amazing. The disobedience was out of love and respect. How can I lead you in salah? So technically he never actually led him in salah. Well, for a millisecond or whatnot, he didn't actually lead the rak'ah. So Abdurrahman ibn Auf has the unique honor and privilege of being, as far as we know, the only human being ever who has led a prophet in salah. Because we don't know of this for any other prophet, that somebody else led him in salah. So as far as we know, Abdurrahman ibn Auf is the only human being that a rak'ah was prayed and the Prophet was behind him. So this happened in one of the Fajr salahs of the 20 days of Tabuk. Another incident. Now again, all of these are just incidents and they're just interesting to hear, tidbits here and there of what we know. Another incident, Ibn Mas'ud reports that one night I woke up in the nights of Tabuk, and I saw a fire in the distance, and I saw around it the Prophet Abu Bakr and Umar. So I went to see what was there, and lo and behold, Abdullah Dhul Bijadain had died. One of the names of the Sahaba, one of the people, Abdullah Dhul Bijadain. Dhul Bijadain means he of the two coarse garments, he of the two woolen garments. Bijadain, was a cheap sack, and Bijadain is two. And Dhu means the one who owns. So Dhul Bijadain, the one who owns the two cheap cloths. That was the name of the Sahabi. That's all we know. Abdullah Dhul Bijadain, the one of the two cheap cloths. And his story was that when he converted, his tribe refused to give him anything. No food, no water, no money that he had earned. They just kicked him out. And so he left only wearing one bijad, one of those garments. And when he got to Medina, he was so embarrassed, he tore that into two so that it would seem as if he has two garments. So one he tied and one he wore. So he was called Abdullah, the one of the two cheap garments, Dhul Bijadain. And he happened to die on that night in Tabuk, a natural death. And so the Prophet Abu Bakr and Umar were praying salah over him basically and giving him a funeral. And this shows us that it is halal to bury somebody at night. It's not the general rule, especially when you're muqim. It makes no sense. But it is halal. We see it here, and we see it in the lady who used to clean the masjid, that she also was just buried at night. So it is permissible to bury somebody at night, and especially when you're in the war or whatnot, there's no reason to wait until the morning. He passed away, so they buried him right then and there. So Ibn Mas'ud participated, and he said that the Prophet ﷺ himself went into the grave, and he said to Abu Bakr and Umar, hand him to me. And so they handed him Abdullah Dhul Bijadain, and as the Prophet was filling the stone, so he's doing it with his own two hands, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "O Allah, I am pleased with this servant of yours, so you as well be pleased with him. I am happy with this person, all that he's done, you as well pleased with him." Ibn